Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1 for the Newsfirst, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan.
And I'm Hiruni Karunaratna. Here are tonight's top stories.
President elaborates in Parliament how relief will be provided to the affected without increasing national debt. Supplementary estimate of 500 billion rupees to restore public infrastructure and lives disrupted by the disaster passed in Parliament. There is no need to change the IMF agreement. IMF targets can be reached while providing relief. Officials inform the National Budget Department. Allegations of misconduct lead to suspension of services of National Hospital Deputy Director Dr. Rukshan Bellana. Opposition to the fore to safeguard Bellana. Dasun Shanaka appointed as captain of Sri Lanka cricket men's team till the T20 World Cup.
On to those stories in detail. A 500 billion rupees supplementary estimate was passed in Parliament today in order to restore public infrastructure and provide relief to those affected by Cyclone Ditwa. What is the manner in which such a large sum of money will be allocated to the people? President Andra Kumara Dissanayake elaborated on it this evening.
එළිය සංවාදයක් තිබෙනවා මේ බිලියන 500 හේතු කොටගෙන ආර්ථිකය කඩා වැටෙනවා කියලා අප්‍රේල් වෙනකොට.
The fear-mongering rumour mill is at work, saying that the economy will crash by next April as a result of this 500 billion supplementary estimate. I need to thank MP Harsha, where he explained on multiple occasions that the government has the necessary funds for this purpose. The MP has also made a statement on donations being received, stating that more focus needs to be given to investments. That is a noteworthy point. So, I heard that the economy will crash by April.
කියලා මම හිතන ඔබතුමා ගියත් දැන් අර අභ්‍යන්තර සාකච්ඡාවක් තිබුණේ ඔබතුමාලගේ පක්ෂේ. ඔබතුමා ගියේ නැද්ද ආර්ථික සාකච්ඡාවට? ආරාධනා කළා නේ රවි කරුණානායක මන්ත්‍රීතුමාට.
Now at that discussion they had said that the economy will crash by next April. I saw many people who attended that discussion conduct a number of media briefings thereafter. What they are trying to communicate are the economical repercussions of passing this 500 billion rupee estimate. However, I must say that we are a government that operates well with a strict fiscal discipline and with a target in mind. Everyone knows that the accounts of the Treasury operated on bank overdrafts for a long period of time. In 2021, the balance was an OD of 800 billion. Today, it is a surplus of 1,200 billion. That is a 2 trillion rupee increase. That is an important milestone in our country's economy. If not for reserves amounting to that much, we would not have been able to allocate this 500 billion rupees today. After 2007, the country will record its highest revenue this year. This is the lowest budget deficit after 1977. If you go back in history of all the budgets, this year will record the highest revenue ever generated by the country. For the first time in Sri Lankan history, we have been able to surpass the budgeted revenue. We have a habit of always increasing the debt ceiling, but we have been able to maintain it this year. When we presented the 2026 budget, we estimated a debt ceiling of 3,800 billion. However, through our budget proposals, we have been able to reduce 60 billion and revise the debt ceiling to 3,740 billion. We are able to allocate this 500 billion from excess funds without raising the debt ceiling. That is an important fact. Therefore, after a long time, we have been able to maintain the debt ceiling presented through the budget and its proposals. Also, for the first time in history, we have been able to record a surplus of 3.8% in our primary account. This year also records the highest foreign remittances in the history of the country. When it comes to revenue generated from tourism, the highest was in 2018 when it was around 3.8 billion. We hope to surpass this by year end. When it comes to export revenue, this year we have been able to export goods and services worth around $18 billion. On the whole, if our economy was not on such a strong and stable footing, we would not have been able to face this situation. It is this economical resilience that gave us the courage and the trust to face this situation. However, we know that our economy was not this resilient in the past. Therefore, going forward, We need to manage the economy with the littlest of interventions in order to smoothen the shocks caused by this disaster.
මසුරු සිටානෝ වගේ සියල්ල එකතු කරමින් ධනෙ එක්රස් කරගැනීම නෙවෙයි ආර්ථිකයක් කියන්නේ. එහෙම නැතුව භාණ්ඩාගාරයේ ධනය ධන උනායි කියලා.
What is the point of the treasury having reserves or having a balance amounting to trillions if the people do not benefit from it? Therefore, if there is even the smallest of economical victories that we have achieved, that victory must trickle down to the people. That is our stance. Therefore, we feel that at this time of disaster, when we have a reserve of 1.2 trillion, we must use these funds to provide relief to the affected. We will not let go of this stance. Our history portrays many instances where those in power served themselves in times of disaster. We saw that in the payment of compensation to those whose houses were burnt in the recent past. Was that fair? Each person got compensation ranging from 50 to 150 million. When they were in power, they were in the habit of serving the lion's share for themselves. The public was left with the remnants. This was the practice in the past. There was an instance in the past where only 150,000 was given as compensation to rebuild a home in Mannar. 10,000 rupees was allocated as a transport allowance, and that too was reduced from the 150,000. Whenever it came to serving the people, they acted like they had to sacrifice a bone from their body. What we have done by allocating 500 billion rupees is unprecedented in Sri Lankan history. We had allocated 1,400 billion for capital expenditure in 2026. We have identified around 130 billion rupees from this capital expenditure towards this rebuilding course. This increases the allocation to 630 billion. There is another 70 billion we have allocated, and this increases the total allocation for rebuilding and restoration efforts to around 700 billion. The World Bank will provide us a report on the initial assessments of the disaster by next Monday. This report will give us a better picture of the true extent of the damage. Now, when an excess of 500 billion is introduced to the market suddenly, we are aware of the impact this will have on national inflation. In order to prevent inflation, we need to have better efficiencies in the production of goods and services. From the monies allocated, we need to allocate a sizable portion towards improving the efficiency in producing goods and services. It is only then that we can manage the inflation levels. Now, when 500 billion is introduced to the market, there is also a possibility for the demand of dollars to increase. So what do we do about this? We look at our estimated dollar revenues and find means to generate more foreign revenue. Otherwise, there will be an impact on the exchange rate of the dollar. To prevent this, we have requested an emergency funding of $200 million from the IMF. I think the IMF board is meeting today, and I hope they will grant us this emergency fund. We are also expecting to mobilize emergency funding from the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. We anticipate that we need to access around $500 million more than what we plan for 2026 in order to prevent the impact on the exchange rate of the dollar. By passing this supplementary estimate, there are two factors that we need to consider. One is the controlling of inflation. The other is the impact on the exchange rate of the dollar. We are aware of this. That is why we have considered to where and what this money needs to be allocated.
Why was a supplementary estimate of 500 billion rupees presented today? The National Budget Department explained this during the meeting of the Committee on Public Finance.
100 billion rupees has been allocated for repairing and rebuilding damaged houses, 250 billion rupees for restoring damaged infrastructure such as bridges, roads, railways, irrigation systems, hospitals and schools, and 150 billion rupees for livelihood support. That makes a total of 500 billion rupees.
Will this 500 billion rupees supplementary estimate increase the country's debt? Will it affect the fiscal targets agreed upon with the International Monetary Fund? Will the debt ceiling need to be raised?
Our ceiling is on the primary expenditure. The original budget approved by Parliament was 2.5%. Now it will reduce by 1.5%, making the primary surplus 1% instead of 2.3%. We will maintain the 13% target in the future and recover this difference. Debt stock levels will remain stable.
මේකේ IMF එකත් එක්ක තියෙන බ්‍රීච් එක මොකද්ද?
බ්‍රීච් එක තමයි 2.3 කියන එක මේ පාර 1% වලට අඩු වෙනවා.
ඒක with agreement without agreement.
with agreement. මොකද PFM එක ඇක්ට් එක හැදුවේ IMF එකත් කන්සල්ට් කරලානේ ඒගොල්ලොත් එක්කනේ. ඒතකොට මේ වගේ disaster situation එකේදී මේක provision එක දාලා තියෙන මේ වගේ manage කරන්න. සහ මෙහෙම disaster එකක් වෙනකොට මේ දීලා තියෙන ප්‍රාථමික සීමාව ඉක්මවලා යන්න කියලා දීලා තියෙනවා.
හැබැයි ඒකත් එක්ක IMF එකේ මේවා එක දැන් අපිට December 15th හම්බෙන්න තියෙන එක දැන් ඒක postpone වුණා. ඒක postpone කරා. ඇයි ඒක මේක 2015 December 2025 December 15 අපි ගත්තා නම් අරන් ඊට පැටි ස්ටෙප් එකට ගියා නම් මේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇතිවන්නේ නැහැ නේ.
නෑ දෙසැම්බර් 15 කොහොමද ට්‍රාන්ස්ෆර් කරන්නේ?
ඇයි අපි මොකුත් තිබ්බේ නෑ. අපි මේකේ මේ එක්ස්පෙන්ඩිචර් එක කියන්න ගිහිල්ලා
නෑ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ බජට් එක පාස් වෙන්නේ කවදද? දෙසැම්බර් 5. එතකොට මේ සිද්ධිය උනේ කවදද? නොවැම්බර් 27. එතකොට දෙසැම්බර් 5 පාස් වෙනකොට මේක අමතර වේදමක් බජට් එකේ නැහැ කියන එක ඔබ්වියස් නේ.
ඉතින් මුකුත් අප්සෙට් වෙන්නේ 50 million within this year's operation. ඒ කිසි බාධාවක් නැහැ. අපි December 15th එක මේක ගත්තට පසුව අපි මේක දැම්මම නම් කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
මේ එහෙම සභාපති මන්ත්‍රීතුමා මේ ඉන්ටර්නැෂනල් ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකත් එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. මොකද
ඒයි බැරි අපි කතා කළා අපි වැඩ කරලා තියෙන කට්ටියනේ මේ බෑ කියන්න බෑ.
මේකේන රිලීෆ් මොකද්ද ජනතාවට දෙන පහසුකම් මොනවද දෙන වියදම් මොනවද කියන එක රටක් විදියට ඉස්සරහට ජනතාවට කියන්න ඕනේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සම්මත වෙන වෙලාවට. හරිද 25 සම්මත වෙනකොට මොකක් මේක නැතුව සම්මත වෙලා ඊළඟට 26 කොහොමද මේක දෙන්නේ?
ඉතින් කොහොමද බජට් පැරාමීටර්ස් වලින් shift වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ. දැන් shift කළා නැහැ නේ. ඉතින් මේ නිකන් එකකින් අනිත් එකට shift කරන එක විතරයි තියෙන්නේ.
අද plan කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
This 500 billion rupees is planned as a one-off offer for 2026, with recovery expected by 2027 to 2028. Under the PFM Act, any future disaster-related expenditure will be refinanced. The priority now is restoring living conditions for affected people, then rebuilding infrastructure. We aim to manage this within the agreed fiscal framework.
ඊට පස්සේ යන්නේ අදාළ යටිතල පාසලන් වේදන් වලට අදාළව. එතකොට ඒවා අපි 27 28 ඉදිරියට වසරදී ඒ අදාළ 13 ඇතුලේ අපි මැනේජ් කරගන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
What is the opposition's response to the passing of the supplementary estimate?
1000කට වැඩි ජීවිත හානි වෙලා
At a time when more than 1,000 lives have been lost and properties belonging to over 1,000 people have been completely destroyed, we are providing our support to the 500 billion rupee interim account brought forward by the government.
අපි අපේ සහයෝගය ලබා දෙනවා.
මට මතකයි එක වෙලාවක
I remember at one point, parliamentarian Kabir Hashim was saying with great excitement that over 1,000 had died in Gampola. Even today, I saw parliamentarian Ranjit Madhuma Bandara while sitting next to Gayantha Karunatilaka claiming more than 1,000 have died when others were saying it's less than 1,000. No, you said more than. You repeated twice that it was over 1,000. I'm asking you, as of 6 a.m. today, the total deaths island-wide stands at 643. There are 183 missing. Are you happy now? Is the rising number what brings you joy? It is tragic. Is this the kind of opposition we have? This is a destructive opposition. This is the true disaster of the country.
දැන් සතුටු දෙයක ඉලක්කම ඉහළ යන එකද සතුටු කනගාටුයි මේ වගේ විපක්ෂයක් මේක විපක්ෂයට විනාශකාරී විපක්ෂයක් මේක තමයි රටේ විපත.
Meanwhile, the opposition proposed today that even the lunch break should be dedicated to the debate on behalf of the people.
අද වැදගත් විවාදයක් තියෙන්නේ අද දවසට විශේෂත්වයක් හැටියට සලකලා කැම පැය භාගෙත් අපිට ලබා දෙන්න කියලා අගමැතිනියකින් ඉල්ලනවා. මොකද රටේ ප්‍රශ්න ගැනනේ කතා කරන්නේ හැමෝම.
විශේෂයෙන්ම දිත්වා සුලිකුණාටුවෙන් විපතටපත් වුණු ජනතාවට
We are providing our maximum support to this supplementary budget of 500 billion rupees allocated for the people affected by Cyclone Ditwa. We make this request for extra time specifically to present the grievances of the people who have lost their lives, their homes and their livelihoods.
විපතටපත් වුණු ජීවිත අහිමි වුණු ගේ දොර අහිමි වුණු ජීවනෝපායන අහිමි වුණු ජනතාව ගැන එයාගේ ප්‍රශ්න ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න.
I think we are all quite aware of the magnitude of this problem. This is not the first occasion on which we have debated this issue. the honourable opposition leader and the members of the opposition have had enough time to talk about this.
කනගාටු වෙනවා අපේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ට තව විනාඩි 30ක් මේ ගැන අදහස් දක්වන්න අවස්ථාව ලබා නොදීම ගැන.
This was the state of the House at the conclusion of Parliament's proceedings this evening.
Sri Lanka's rebuilding efforts have received a boost, with the Treasury confirming that contributions have now surpassed 4,286 million rupees. This includes 4,263 million rupees in direct deposits and 23 million rupees in foreign currency, amounting to an equivalent of 13.86 million US dollars.
Based on the previous information bulletin that we shared, we indicated Treasury has received nearly 3.4 billion rupees. Based on the update that have been received from the Treasury Operations Department of the Ministry of Finance, we are happy to share that as of today the total amount received is 4,286 million rupees, which comprises of deposits of 4,263 million, direct deposits into the bank accounts, as well as 23 million received in foreign currencies, signifying a total of over 4.2 billion rupees, and the equivalent amount in US dollars is 13.86 million US dollars, whereas the amount received in foreign currencies itself has exceeded $6 million. This is the amount received from the well-wishers, supporters, Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, organizations, businesses, Sri Lankans living in overseas, and other organizations assisting Sri Lanka at this moment. And we are being informed as of now through the External Relations Department of the Ministry of Finance, institutions or multilateral agencies such as World Bank, IMF, ADB, and many other organizations are considering the assistance relating to support the rebuilding efforts of Sri Lanka. When the details are finalized, we will share information relating to such engagement as well. And once again, it's very heartwarming to notice the support and the assistance, timely intervention of individuals as well as organizations, and the support from various governments that we have received to rebuild Sri Lanka, to take the country forward and to create a future better than what it was before, prior to the disaster that we encountered. And in terms of the countries who have contributed, once again, based on the information shared by the Treasury Operations Department, USA, or the money received through the bank accounts collected through North America, is ranked at the highest position, followed by donations and contributions received from Australia, China, UK, Germany, contributions from Bhutan, Italy, United Arab Emirates, Canada, New Zealand, Maldives, followed by Saudi Arabia, France. Korea is still high on the ranking in terms of assistance, support and grants that we have received. This is in addition to the significant amount of donations that we have received in terms of goods and services that Sri Lankan Customs is keeping a record of at the moment. As and when more information and more details relating to them are available, we will share them on a timely manner. All these funds that have been received have been recorded as received by the Treasury, and it will be accounted accordingly based on the system that the government is following for counting grants and assistance that we are receiving. Goods received have been handed over timely to Disaster Management Center to make sure they have been dispersed and provided to the people in the affected area.
The suspension of Dr. Rukshan Bellana, Deputy Director of National Hospital of Sri Lanka, over allegations of misconduct became a key topic in Parliament today.
Dr. Bellana, who exposed corruption in the healthcare sector, has lost his job for speaking to the media. He was dismissed simply for talking to the press. Does he not have the right to speak about issues concerning public health? No. His work has been banned. Please let me speak, Honorable Speaker. I'm raising this issue in defense of fundamental rights. How is this fair?
Today, Dr. Bellana has been suspended and removed from his position. What is the reason? It concerns a 2,500 million rupee fraud that occurred between 2022 and 2024, which he reported to the Bribery Commission. That is the main reason for his removal. Therefore, I respectfully request the Director General of our Bribery Commission to conduct a proper audit and organize an investigation into this matter.
Dr. Bellana's suspension is not related to the issues you mentioned. It concerns his disclosure of sensitive patient information and the release of misleading statements that caused public unrest. 2 complaints were filed regarding these matters. His suspension was carried out with approval from the Public Service Commission. It is unrelated to the issues you raised.
දේවල් හා සම්බන්ධ නැහැ. මොකද මීට කලිනුත් හිටපු අධ්‍යක්ෂකවරු රෝහල් අධ්‍යක්ෂකවරු මේ සම්බන්ධව විවිධ ඒ තොරතුරු මාධ්‍යවල දීම කරා එමතුමා. මේ බෙල්ලන මහත්තයා විතරක් නෙවෙයි. ඒ නිසා මම කියන්න කැමතියි ඔබතුමාගෙන් මේ කාරණේ පිළිබඳව නම් එතුමා ඉවත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒකත් වැරදි. මොකද සම්බන්ධ තොරතුරු විදියට ඕන තරම් එදිනෙට දාලා තියෙනවා.
The suspension of Dr. Rukshan Bellana, Deputy Director of the National Hospital in Colombo, was enforced following a formal inquiry into allegations of misconduct. The Ministry of Health confirmed that the suspension took effect yesterday. The allegations relate to issuing statements to the media without prior approval, which reportedly created controversial situations and public unrest while holding a position of responsibility. According to the official letter from the Ministry of Health, the suspension was carried out immediately under the regulations of the Public Service Commission. Dr. Bellana, who was suspended over these allegations, left the National Hospital premises this morning.
News First with the people.
Strong winds of up to 40 kilometers per hour are likely in the eastern slopes of the Central Hills as well as in the northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee, Hambantota and Monoragala districts.
According to the Department of Meteorology, the forecast indicates several spells of showers in the eastern, Uva and central provinces and in the Polonnaruwa and Hambantota districts. Thunder showers are also expected in the western and Sabaragamu provinces and in the Gaul and Mathura districts later this afternoon. The Department of Meteorology advises the public to take necessary precautions to minimize risks from temporary strong winds and lightning that may accompany these thunderstorms. In the past 24 hours, the highest rainfall in the country was reported from the Ududumbar area in the Kandy district, recording 308 millimeters. Kandy's Poppitir received 234 millimeters, Nugathanna 221 millimeters, Kaikabala 218 millimeters, and Pallevala 178 millimeters of rainfall. Currently, 32 sluice gates of reservoirs under the Irrigation Department have been opened. At the Minneri Reservoir, 6 out of 7 sluice gates are open, releasing water into the Kaudula Reservoir. At the Kaudula Reservoir, 6 out of 12 sluice gates are open. 1 sluice gate has been opened at the Murugahakanda Reservoir. At Kalababa, 2 sluice gates remain open by 6 feet each, while at the Angamo Reservoir, 2 gates are open by 2 feet each. Reservoir engineers have advised residents on both sides of the Lunu Oya to remain cautious. 6 sluice gates at the Rajangane Reservoir remain open, and as a result, the Giribaba Rajangane road below the reservoir has been closed. 2 sluice gates at Dadruya Reservoir were opened this morning. Water released from the Kandalama Reservoir in Dambulla is flowing through the Dambulla Oya into Kalababa. Due to sluice gate openings at the Kondawattuana Reservoir, the Ampara Inginiagala Road is submerged. Here was the situation today at Gallala on the main Batiklo Polonnaruwa Road. The Somawathiya Sungavila main road remains closed near Diggala due to flooding, cutting off access to Somawathiya Rajamaha Viharaya. Our correspondents report that the Galnava Hiripitiagama road near the Handungama school and the road from Aukana to Kakirava remain submerged near the Kala Oya bridge. Several low-lying areas and homes in Batiklo, including Kaluwanchikudi, Kaludavale and Erabur, are still underwater. The road from Kiran to Thoppigala is submerged near the Kiran bridge. On the Passara Model Sima, Akiriya Kuruvigala Road, near the 26th milepost, a landslide has disrupted travel. In the Pusallava town, about 7 shops are at risk of collapsing, and police have advised the public to stay away from these locations. Today marked day 22 of the Sirasa Sahanayatra flood relief drive. This was the scene at the MTV MBC head office premises last night. Aid collected from people across the island with heartfelt promise to deliver it directly to those who lost their homes and are in distress was being prepared for dispatch. Relief convoys left the MTV MBC head office premises this morning, heading to the Ridhigama Divisional Secretariat Division in the Kurunagala district to distribute essential supplies. Assistance was also delivered to villages severely affected by the Dadaru floods and landslides, including Kandagedara, Pihimbua, Rambadagalla, Nahalla and Gonigoda. A team carrying sanitary items and medical supplies visited the Gonigoda Regional Hospital to hand over essential equipment. The convoy that departed last afternoon from the MTV MBC head office premises reached Nuera Elia this morning, delivering aid to the Padiyapalalla Napatavala village in the Mathurata division. "70 people displaced by landslides and sheltered at the Illagolla temple in Hangurankata also received relief assistance. This is the Morakolla village, one of the worst hit areas by landslides. Aid was also distributed to several other villages, including Palle Bovala, Navanelia and Kithulpe. These are the students of the Soma Devi Girls School in Kotikavatta, Kudabutgamua, affected by flooding from the Kalani River. A team visited them last afternoon and handed over school supplies. People continue to bring essential items to the MTV MBC head office premises and the Department Broadcasting Centre, contributing to this humanitarian effort. Those who once stood strong without troubling anyone are now displaced and homeless. The Sirasa Sahanayatra flood relief convoys continue tirelessly, ensuring no one is left alone.
Newsfirst, main sponsor.
Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
From the earth to the deep blue seas and the skies above, Dialogue, Sri Lanka's #1 network, connects the hearts of Sri Lankans to the world. And now, our future is victorious. Advancing a nation through its people.
Where to, madam?
To the future.
Dialogue 5G Ultra. Experience Sri Lanka's #1 5G network today.
Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
The case over the incident in which 3 people were injured when a jeep driven by former Speaker and NPP MP Asoka Ranbala collided with a car was heard at Mahara Magistrates Court today. The court was not presented with Ranbala's medical report, including urine and blood test results.
The Mahara Magistrates Court was informed today that the medical report related to the jeep accident involving former Speaker and NPP MP Asoka Ranbala has been sent to the government analyst, but results have not yet been received. Attorney Akalanka Ukwatta, representing Ranbala, offered 50,000 rupees to the hospitalized injured party and 25,000 rupees to a mother and her baby who were also hurt as a compassionate allowance. The plaintiffs declined the offer. The magistrate questioned the police about who had been injured in the accident. Sapugaskanda police confirmed that the injured were travelling in the plaintiff's car. The court also asked why Ranbala remained hospitalized. The defence stated he is still receiving treatment as his physical condition is not yet fully recovered. After reviewing the facts, Magistrate Bandara Ilangasinghe ordered the temporary suspension of Ranbala's driving licence and instructed him to undergo a fitness test at the National Transport Medical Institute after being discharged from hospital, and then a report to be submitted to court. The case is scheduled for further hearing on the 16th of January 2026.
Sri Lanka has achieved a major breakthrough in its debt restructuring process, specifically concerning foreign borrowings guaranteed by the government to Sri Lankan airlines. The Official Creditor Committee, or the OCC, has formally granted a no objection clearance, allowing the country to proceed with its proposed settlement arrangements.
In relation to the debt restructuring process, where Sri Lankan Airlines was required to restructure some of the foreign borrowings, where Sri Lankan government has provided a guarantee. In relation to that one, Sri Lanka, the government has continuously kept the market informed through mainly through the Singapore exchange, which was part of the requirement that we were to comply with. We have indicated certain arrangements, in principle agreements and arrangements in terms of sharing information, etc., based on the way forward has been identified and shared. And as per the advice from the legal advisors and experts Sri Lankan government has appointed, we were required to obtain, based on their advice, the concurrence from the Official Credit Committee, or commonly known as OCC, relating to with no objection for Sri Lanka to proceed based on the approach that we have adopted in order to obtain the necessary clearances. And we are very grateful and happy to inform that OCC has formally conveyed their position of no objection in order to support the Sri Lanka, particularly considering the difficult situation Sri Lanka is in right now, and they want to, and OCC has indicated to us that they have no objection for Sri Lanka proceeding on the basis that we have chosen in terms of the settlement arrangements that we have shared with them. So this is yet another important milestone for Sri Lanka in order to finalize all the other remaining agreements in terms of the debt restructuring. As a percentage, we have reached well above 90% in terms of the restructured values. Sri Lanka is continuously engaging with the other governments, other stakeholders also, wherever that remaining amounts are available, in order to identify possible avenues to finalize those agreements. So this is yet another important milestones. There are a few more steps in the process. We believe they are procedural, and we should be able to, with the support and blessings of all the parties involved, we should be able to complete them within a short period of time. And as and when we have more information relating to them, we would endeavor to share with the market and with all of you all as early as possible.
Prime Minister Dr. Harun Yamarasuriya stated in Parliament today that steps have been taken to present the concept paper for the new constitution to the cabinet.
මීට පෙර නව ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් සම්පාදනය කිරීම සඳහා පත් කරන ලද කමිටුවල
The reports of all previous committees appointed to examine the preparation of a new constitution as well as all other constitutional reform proposals are being considered. We expect to present the initial concept paper to the Cabinet of Ministers soon. At the stage of formulating a new constitution, steps will be taken to abolish the executive presidency and introduce a parliament-led governance system. Once the constitutional amendment is completed, the executive presidency will definitely be abolished. This cannot be achieved without implementing a new constitution. We have already begun studying the system required to abolish the executive presidency. While priority is being given to the prevailing problems in the country, this issue will also receive attention. Definite timelines will be announced in the future. It is the government's expectation to hold the Pradeshya Sabha elections as soon as possible, and all necessary steps are being taken to ensure this. Discussions are underway to determine whether amendments to the existing act could allow the elections to be held according to the current system. Following these discussions, a final decision will be made. However, the Pradeshya Sabha elections will definitely be held at the conclusion of this process. Funds for this purpose have been allocated through the 2026 budget.
මේ මූලික අයිතිවාසිකම් වලට සෞඛ්‍ය අයිතිය, නිදහස් සෞඛ්‍යයට අයිතිය, නිදහස් අධ්‍යාපනයට අයිතිය, සංස්කෘතිමය අයිතීන්, ආගමික අයිතීන් මේ අනාදි වශයෙන් පුළුල් නිර්වචනයක් තුළ මූලික අයිතිවාසිකම් ක්‍රියාත්මක විය යුතුයි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ පැහැදිලිව කියනවා.
මූලික අයිතිවාසිකම් පිළිබඳ ඒ chapter එක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම පුළුල් විය යුතුයි කියන ස්ථාවරය තමයි අපේ ආණ්ඩුව පෙනී ඉන්නේ. ඒ නිසා මූලික අයිතිවාසිකම් පිළිබඳ පුළුල් වෙන විදියට ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් ගෙනීම පිළිබඳ විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාත් අපිට සහයෝගය දෙන එක ගැන මම ඉතාමත්ම සතුටු වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Japan provided $1 million worth shelters through the International Organization for Migration in response to the cyclone disaster.
Japan has handed over emergency shelters worth $1 million to Sri Lanka through the International Organization for Migration as part of a larger $2.5 million emergency grant announced on the 16th of December. The official handover took place with Akio Isomata, the ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, and Christine Parko, chief of mission for IOM Sri Lanka, presenting the aid to Chatura Lianarachi, the director of the Disaster Management Center.
As we move on from the phase of immediate assistance for emergency release to the next phase, these people should not be left behind, because shelter is very important for protection of people. It's part of the essential necessities of everyday life. We have to continue to provide assistance to these displaced people, especially women, children, and elderly people, vulnerable people. As we move on to the next stage of rehabilitation and reconstruction, Japan will provide its maximum assistance to the affected people of Sri Lanka. Japan continues to provide its assistance to the people of Sri Lanka in a seamless manner. Japan has a strong and excellent relationship, bilateral relationship with Sri Lanka based on the strong bond of trust and friendship. We will always be together with Sri Lanka in solidarity with the people of Sri Lanka.
This assistance includes 615 shelter kits, complete with kitchen sets, wash kits and bedding kits aimed at supporting severely affected households in Kandy, Badulla and Kegaul districts.
As the global and national lead for shelter, land and site coordination, IOM plays a central role in coordinating shelter and non-food item assistance, including providing immediate and mid-term and longer support, and offering technical guidance to ensure safe, dignified and shelter solutions. Behind every number is a person, someone who has whose safety and dignity and rights must remain at the center of all our response. At a moment like this, people need to feel protected, supported, and able to regain better in restoring the sense of stability and hope. On behalf of IOM and the communities we serve, I extend our deepest gratitude to the government and people of Japan and to His Excellency Akira Somata, the Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, for your solidarity, compassion, and unwavering support to Sri Lanka.
Chaturaliyana Arachi, the Director of Disaster Management Center, accepted the donation.
As you all aware, 25 districts affected by Ditwan cyclone, but 22 districts worstly affected. Despite we are having such affected districts itself, we are having a kind of a need in Badulla, Kandy and Kegol, as IOM mentioned. So now we are in the immediate recovery process. At the same time, this shelter assistance, which is much more needed to just to give the people who are reside in temporary shelters to move back to their family unit together until the proper house built. At the same time, finding out the much needed families, beneficiaries, especially with the government officials, discuss with the government officials and finding the most suitable beneficiaries, and immediately put those shelters in those places will be vital for this particular moment itself.
This grant assistance through the IOM, valued at $1 million, forms part of an emergency grant amounting to $2.5 million, which the government of Japan decided on the 16th of December to extend to the government of Sri Lanka in partnership with United Nations organizations, and namely the IOM, the World Food Programme and the United Nations Children's Fund.
The Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund is meeting today to review Sri Lanka's formal request for emergency financial assistance under the Rapid Financing Instrument.
The request, amounting to $200 million, equivalent to 26% of Sri Lanka's IMF quota, comes in the aftermath of Cyclone Ditwa, which caused widespread destruction across the island. In a statement issued earlier, Evan Papageorgiou, IMF Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, emphasized that the IMF remains actively engaged with Sri Lankan authorities during this critical period. If approved, the emergency financing will provide a vital lifeline to stabilize the economy and accelerate reconstruction in cyclone-affected regions. The Colombo Municipal Council's Christmas celebrations were inaugurated under the patronage of His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, Archbishop of Colombo, this evening. This year's theme is Lights of Hope. Mayor of Colombo, Vrai Kali Balthazar, and Western Province Governor Hanif Yusuf were present at the event, which also included a number of dignitaries.
Shifting your attention to international news, a 6-day manhunt in the United States has come to an end after the suspect in last week's deadly shooting at Brown University was found in New Hampshire.
U.S. authorities says that the suspect in last week's mass shooting at Brown University has been found dead in New Hampshire, ending a 6-day multi-state manhunt. Police identified the suspect as Claudio Neves Valente, 48, a former Brown University student and Portuguese national. He was found dead inside a rented storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire, with investigators saying initial findings point to an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Authorities believe Valente killed 2 people and injured 9 others at Brown, and later shot and killed an MIT professor at his home in Massachusetts. Officials say evidence recovered links him directly to the attacks, and investigations are continuing.
EU Council President Antonio Costa said that the European Union leaders have agreed to provide an interest-free loan to Ukraine to meet its military and economic needs in its war with Russia for the next 2 years.
European Union leaders have agreed to provide Ukraine with the 90 billion euros loan after failing to reach consensus on directly using frozen Russian assets. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed the move, calling it vital support that strengthens the country's resilience and provides long-term financial security while keeping Russian assets immobilized. The loan will cover around two-thirds of the estimated 135 billion euros Ukraine needs to sustain its economy over the next 2 years.
Tensions remain high in Bangladesh as the killing of a key youth figure sparks renewed protests just weeks ahead of national elections.
Bangladesh's security forces have stepped up patrols in Dhaka and other major cities following violent protests triggered by the death of youth leader Sharif Osman Hadi. The 32-year-old spokesperson for Inkilab Mancha was shot by masked attackers in Dhaka last week while launching his election campaign and later died in Singapore after 6 days on life support. Overnight protests turned violent, targeting media offices and political and cultural buildings. While Friday morning remained mostly calm, tension stayed high ahead of Friday prayers. Student leaders have called for fresh nationwide protests after Hadi's body arrives in Dhaka, saying demonstrations will continue until those responsible are arrested.
Meanwhile, TikTok has reached a major deal with US and global investors to secure its American operations, ending years of US pressure over national security concerns.
TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance has signed binding agreements with US and global investors to run the app's American operations. Under the deal, a new joint venture half-owned by investors including Oracle, Silver Lake and UAE-based MGX is set to be finalized on 22nd of January. The agreement aims to resolve long-running US national security concerns and avoid a potential ban on the app. The move follows a deal framework announced in September after US President Donald Trump delayed enforcement of a law requiring TikTok's sale.
A look back at your local news. The police media division said the government analyst has reported that there is no alcohol or intoxicants in the blood and urine samples of MP Ashoka Ranwala in relation to the motor accident that occurred in Sapugaskanda. Lanka Cricket announced the appointment of Dasun Shanaka as Sri Lanka cricket captain for the period leading up to the T20 World Cup during a press conference held at the Sri Lanka Cricket today.
This was the first press conference held by the National Cricket Selection Committee headed by Pramodya Wickramasinghe after its appointment. The 25-member Sri Lanka squad was also announced at the event.
Head of High Performance Jerome Jayaratne.
We had a discussion with the head of the high performers, Jerome Jayaratne, as well as the national coach, Sanat Jayasuriya. Out of these 25 players, the final squad will be chosen for the upcoming Pakistan tour, England tour and the World Cup. We decided to let Dasun Shanaka lead until the World Cup. We also spoke to Sanat Jayasuriya. At that time when I was attacked, I decided to go ahead with a youth policy and would go and bring a new team. Most of the time, the risk is not taken. I took that risk. The best example is Pathum Nissanka. After I became the chairman, the first thing I did was to bring Pathum Nissanka to the team. I brought 15. The only thing that Miki Arthur coach didn't do was to fight with me. He was against his decision, saying he was not ready. I finally said that I will take the responsibility. You play in. That's how Pathum Nissanka came.
එහෙම තමයි පතුම් නිසං කාවේ.
විශේෂයෙන් හැලඹගේ කියන ක්‍රීඩකයා මේ ස්කොඩ් එකේ නෑ 25. අපි තවමත් කුසල් මෙන්ඩිස් හරි කුසල් ජනිත් හරි ලකුණු ගහනකම් බලන් ඉන්නද බලාපොරොත්තුව.
විශේෂයෙන් ක්‍රීඩා කරා අපි පහුගිය Rising
Vishen played in the last Rising Star tournament. He played in all matches. Vishen is a good player, a talented player indeed. He still has a little bit to learn. We will bring him to the team when the time comes.
අවශ්‍ය වෙලාවට අපි ආව කණ්ඩායමට ගේන්න.
චරිත නායකත්වයෙන් ඉවත් වුණා. ගොල්ලෝ ඇවිල්ලා චරිත දෙන්නේ නැති හේතුව මොකද්ද?
One days වල චරිත් perform කළා තියෙන විදිහයි.
After seeing Charit's performance in the ODIs and finally his setbacks in the T20s, we felt that there is a bit of pressure on Charit. We had to decide how we can get the best out of Charit in this World Cup. By playing as a player or by playing as a captain. We thought that we would be able to get more results from him by playing as a player. That's why we all agreed with that decision.
ඒකයි අපි ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා ඒ ඩිසිෂන් එකට ආවේ.
තොරතුරු වාර්තා වෙනවා
කපාටම ඔබතුමියගේ දුවෙක් ඇවිල්ලා සිලෙක්ෂන් වලට ක්‍රීඩා කරනවා කියලා සත්‍යස්ථතාවයක් තියෙනවද?
මගදුව ශ්‍රී ලංකා ඒ ටීම් එකේ ඒ කියන්නේ කිසිම කොන්ට්‍රැක්ට් එකක් නැතුව.
My daughter has been practicing with the Sri Lanka A team for about a month now without contract. The main reason she started practicing here is that she was in Australia for her studies. She played in the first 11 of the Max T20 competition and also played first-class cricket there. Even earlier, the former selectors had recommended that she be brought here. I didn't bring her earlier because of her studies. Now, based on her skills and performance, she is practicing here as per the guidance of the former selectors.
හිටපු සිලෙක්ටර්ස්ලා ඔක්කොම මේවා කළා එතන දැනට ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එකක් විතරක් කරගෙන යනවා.
India and Pakistan have qualified for the final of the Under-19s Asia Cup after defeating Sri Lanka and Bangladesh in the preceding semi-final matches. The finals are being broadcast live on TV1 of the Maharaja Media Network, the official local broadcasting rights holder of the tournament, and online via www.citisatv.lk.
India secured its spot in the Under-19s Asia Cup final after a commanding 8-wicket victory over Sri Lanka at the ICC Academy ground in Dubai. The match was reduced to 20 overs per side following rain interruptions. Batting first, Sri Lanka only managed to post a total of 138 runs for the loss of 8 wickets. In reply, India chased down the target in 18 overs, losing just 2 wickets. The second semi-final was played between Pakistan and Bangladesh, with Pakistan winning by 8 wickets. Due to rain interruptions, the innings were limited to 27 overs per side. Batting first, Bangladesh were bowled for 121 runs. Pakistan chased down the target in 16.3 overs for the loss of only 2 wickets.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.